The relationship between the United States and Iran, it's been a toxic affair for longer than most of us have been alive. But, well, overnight, everything just changed. That 73-year Cold War, it just went hot.
Yeah, this isn't some sternly worded letter from the UN. This is the real deal. We're talking actual missiles. And look, we're not talking about some minor skirmish on the border here. No, the targets were as high value as they get. The capital city, no nuclear facilities, and yeah, the residential compound of the Supreme Leader himself. A totally coordinated, absolutely devastating strike.
And then came the news that changed everything. The Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, confirmed dead, killed in the strike. The man who had ruled Iran for decades, just gone. So if you're sitting there right now thinking, wait a minute, how on earth did we get here? Well, that is exactly the right question. Because this didn't just happen in a vacuum. It's the final domino to fall in a chain reaction that started, get this, 73 years ago.
So to understand what just happened, we've got to go back, way back, to a time when the US and Iran weren't just not enemies, they were actually close allies. All right, let's just walk through the timeline because it's a wild ride. It all kicks off in 1953. In the big chess game of the Cold War, the Shah's Iran was a super crucial American ally, like a wall against the Soviets. The relationship was so tight, America actually helped Iran build its first nuclear reactor. But then, 1979, the friendship completely shatters. The Islamic Revolution just explodes, the American-backed Shah is overthrown, and Ayatollah Khamenei grabs power. And that same year, the American embassy gets stormed, which kicks off the hostage crisis that would basically poison the relationship for decades.
And the shift was, absolute. Under the Shah, Iran's leader was basically seen as America's CEO in the Middle East. It was an era of modernization, sure, but also of a really brutal secret police. After '79, America became the Great Satan. Those extravagant palaces and parties were swapped out for anti-US banners and revolutionary chants on the street. A complete 180.
444. Just let that number sink in. For 444 days, 52 Americans were held captive. And this wasn't just some diplomatic crisis. It basically became the original 24/7 breaking news loop. Every single night, the news would count the days. It just seared this deep-seated animosity into the American consciousness. And from that moment on, really, it was nothing but decades of sanctions and proxy wars.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the modern era. What you have is decades of just glaring at each other, posturing, and this quiet but steady march toward open conflict. And it all centered around one thing: nuclear ambitions.
Iran always insisted its nuclear program was for peaceful energy. It's just for power plants, they said. But then, 2002, satellite photos leak, and what do they show? Secret underground facilities. Not exactly the kind of thing you build for civilian energy, right? It's the kind of thing you build inside a mountain when you're really, really hoping nobody notices. And, well, the world responded with absolutely crippling sanctions.
For a little while there, it actually seemed like diplomacy might work. Back in 2015, the big Iran nuclear deal was signed. But then, 2018, the US pulls out. So what does Iran do? It responds by firing up its centrifuges again, big time. Then, in 2020, things get personal. The US assassinates Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, in a drone strike. By the time the final, last-ditch diplomatic talks in Geneva collapsed in early 2026, yeah, everybody knew the ladder of escalation had run out of rungs. The diplomats were out, the generals were taking over.
And that brings us right back to today, February 28th, 2026. The exact moment that 73-year Cold War finally, officially ended, and a hot war began.
So this wasn't an attack by just one country. No, this was a coordinated, joint assault. You had Israel's Operation Roaring Lion and the Pentagon's Operation Epic Fury. It was a simultaneous strike across 24 Iranian provinces, using pretty much everything in the toolbox: Tomahawk missiles, fighter jets, and even new attack drones. And yeah, the strike achieved its #1 objective. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the man who ruled Iran with an absolute iron fist for 36 years, was killed. He was 86 years old, a figure who basically defined an entire era of Iranian history. Just gone in an instant.
So, what happens now? Seriously, what happens to 88 million people when their entire power structure just vanishes overnight?
It's the question on everyone's mind, right? Who's in charge now? And the honest answer is, nobody really knows.
This strike was unbelievably surgical. It wasn't just the Supreme Leader. You've got the defense minister, the commander of the incredibly powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and the secretary of the Security Council, all of them killed. In the same morning, the entire chain of command was decapitated before lunch.
Of course, Iran's response was immediate, but also chaotic. What was left of the Revolutionary Guard just lashed out. They attacked 27 different bases hosting US troops, and they started firing missiles not just at Israel, but at Kuwait and Qatar too. It was a clear message: we can still reach you. We're not done.
And if you want to understand the state of Iran today, you just had to look at the streets of Tehran. On the very same day, sometimes on the same city blocks, you saw two completely opposite reactions. You had thousands gathering to mourn, waving flags and chanting "Death to America." But then, just a few streets away, you had people openly cheering, celebrating the death of the man who had ruled their entire lives. Grief and relief literally side by side.
And look,
This is just the beginning. We're only on day 1. The Red Crescent is already reporting over 200 people dead and nearly 750 injured, and the strikes are still ongoing. This is the human cost, and that number, it's just going to keep climbing.
So let's end this where we began, because the ultimate irony in this whole 73-year story is just staggering. Think about this. Back in the 1950s, America literally handed Iran the keys to its nuclear program. They helped them build their very first reactor. And now, here we are in 2026, and America is bombing the exact same facilities it helped create. And they've killed the leader of a government that their own actions, all those decades ago, helped bring to power. It has come completely, tragically, full circle. You see, it all connects. That American-backed coup back in '53, it created the anger that fueled the '79 revolution. That revolution created the hostage crisis, and that hostage crisis created the enemies we've been dealing with ever since. Each event was just another domino, knocking over the next one in line.
The thing is, we're not watching history from a textbook anymore. This is happening right now. The bombs are still falling. 88 million people just woke up in a country that has no idea who's in charge. So really, the only question that matters now is, what domino falls next?